A regime on the ropes. Major strikes take out more Iranian leaders, and movement in the Strait of Hormuz could give oil markets some much-needed optimism. Welcome to the Big Money Show. I'm Taylor Riggs, along with my co-host, Dagan McDowell, Brian Brenberg, Jackie DeAngelis, and with us for the hour, Fox Business senior correspondent Charlie Gasparino. Great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
So more ships making their way through the Strait. That is the critical waterway that moves around 20% of the world's oil and gas. Some tankers are sneaking through despite threats, and President Trump says Iran is being dismantled piece by piece.
We hit them so hard like nobody's ever been hit. We hit them very hard, and we've extinguished most of their missiles. We've extinguished most of their drones. We've extinguished most of the places where the missiles and the drones are built. Iran is a shell of itself. It's no longer a bully. It's the one that gets bullied. It's a bully that got beat up. We beat the crap out of them, and they deserve that.
But he's also warning this isn't over yet. So, Charlie, that's sort of where I want to kick things off. Square those two with us. We've beaten them down. The Navy's at the bottom of the sea. They're done. But then we're still sort of getting a mostly blockade, Strait of Hormuz, and saying, you know, they're done, but the war isn't over yet. Can you have it on both sides?
As of now, yes. That doesn't mean it's going to last forever. On my Risk and Return podcast, we had Jack Devine. And if you know anything about Jack Devine, former long-time terrorism expert, like #2 guy at the CIA, to sort of unravel this. And he put it pretty bluntly. He says, we're winning this. Do not believe what you're reading in the papers. This is by all, militarily, this is like a complete catastrophe for Iran. They still have some capabilities. Okay, obviously they can throw a drone at a ship. And that could prevent everybody from going there. They can mine the Straits of Hormuz, which they're doing. They can do these sort of tactical maneuvers that's disruptive, essentially, to the flow of oil. But they're, as a country, they're, you know, as a power, they're toast. And what he believes is that at some point, you know, the U.S. spends a lot of money on the military. We're going to deal with those problems. We don't spend this much money because we're going to let Iran send oil to $150, $200 a barrel by jamming up the Straits of Hormuz. So we're going to do something about this. What I find interesting is that Iran is, in some ways, I mean, we're going to get through this at some point, right? It's going to be over. Iran's going to be what it is. I mean, do they think that the oil suppliers, the Gulf nations, are not going to adapt to the fact that they control the Straits of Hormuz? They're going to find an alternative way.
They already have. We've been talking about it.
Yeah, okay, so then they're becoming increasingly irrelevant. And do you see what I'm saying? I mean, they're pushing themselves into increasing irrelevance. And if they don't have oil where they can ship around and threaten people with, I mean,
that's sort of their leverage.
That's their leverage against the world and for terrorism.
Dagan, talk to me about that. We've talked about the pipeline that runs from east to west. Thank you for correcting me, so I'm trying to get my navigation here. Also, interesting, I think overnight we were hearing a couple of tankers were going through, but pretty much Iran is dictating who they let through or not. I think it was a Pakistani tanker and then maybe an Indian, under an Indian flag, LNG, that they're basically going through that strait, but hugging very close to the Iranian coast, basically signaling that Iran is dictating who can and cannot at this moment go through. How do you see this playing out?
Well, Charlie sat down and he, before the show started, noted, if not for the very pro-energy approach and policy of President Trump, where would oil be? If we weren't a net exporter of all petroleum products, where would oil be? It'd be $120 a barrel. It would be even higher. That policy allows the United States to remove this #1 state sponsor of terror, has been for almost 50 years. What's happening is, I don't want to diminish what is going on with diesel in this country over $5 a gallon at this point, which hurts transportation. It hurts everybody because of the nature of carting things to market, if you will. However, about half of the oil that goes through the Strait of Hormuz, half the oil and product, 20 million total, 15 million crude, is getting to market in other ways. The East-West pipeline that Saudi Arabia built 45 years ago, that's 5 million barrels. There's 1.5 million through the UAE pipeline. That was why I pointed out the importance of Iran attacking with drones Fujairah, where that's the termination point of that pipeline. But you also have, there is still oil that is being exported and shipped out of Qatar to China by Iran.
I know.
There is the release
Pakistan, they're sending, didn't they get
there
some
was
oil?
one, that was like one flag Pakistani ship, I think, but Iran's still getting out 2 million barrels a day by some estimates. There is the 400 million barrel release from the strategic reserves around the globe. So the oil is still flowing, but you have to make up at least half of the oil nonetheless. This is, France says it's an ixnay on, speaking pig Latin, on the helping the United States in any transport escorts through the Strait of Hormuz. But that's last. And I don't even think once our military is done, but it needs to be to finish this off, because Iran has sent the signal to the world that it will be able to disrupt the flows of energy through the Strait in perpetuity unless it is decapitated figuratively for time to come.
I just want to hit some headlines, Brian, and I give these to you because this sort of goes along the theme of what you were talking about yesterday. President Trump's making comments, and he says, look, NATO is making a very foolish mistake on Iran. We have great support from Qatar, UAE, Saudi Arabia, even Bahrain when it comes to Iran, but that it's not really good for a NATO partnership when they say they are not going to help. It is a wild world that we live in where we're talking about all the support that we're getting from the Middle East, but NATO not stepping up. What do you think?
Well, do you know what it tells me? Remember Trump said we got to do Greenland because if China ever goes up there and starts to attack, NATO will never show up. They're proving his point right now. Yeah. Guys, you rely on this oil. Trump's not asking you to pick up the heaviest part of the load. He's just saying, show up with some of your mind-sweeping technology, maybe a ship or two, and make this a coalition. And they're like, we don't think so. So you know what? Don't complain to me, Europe. Don't complain to us, Europe, about Greenland, because you're proving the point right here. But Charlie, for the second week in a row, I got to agree with you. On, I know it's.
We have alarm bells going on.
It's a very uncomfortable situation for me to be in. But I will agree with you.
Starting to sweat. I can tell.
And this is your area of expertise. You know, we talk about Iran and the asymmetry of their weapons, right? So they send cheap drones against expensive missiles, okay? But the other part of their strategy is the asymmetry of the narrative that gets told about this that they benefit from. If you look at basically any major newspaper in the U.S. and you look at how this is covered, you know, like this morning, so they got the Iran's, they're effectively their top guy, right? So that was a headline. Every story underneath is some story about how somebody's worried and something might fall apart and something's just on the edge and one missile hit over here and one missile hit over there. And it all looks like chaos, okay? And you talk to a guy who knows what he's talking about, not a journalist, a guy who knows what he's talking about. And he says, we're winning. But that narrative is buried under 1,000 layers of little things that the anti-Trump regime media doesn't like, and that becomes a story. So, time is going to pass. I agree with you. This is going to get resolved because we've got $1 trillion military, okay, going up against Iran. And in the meantime, I think you have got to heavily filter the story we get from the media because I think it's an anti-Trump story, not a what's happening with Iran story.
Well, if you turn on another channel, which I sometimes do just to see exactly what's going on, it sounds like it's Iranian state TV, honestly. And the president...
What channel is this so we can avoid?
I'm not naming
Just
names.
throw a
but guess.
dart at your
Just guess.
remote.
Financial channel? Or?
No, not financial channel. A news channel that was saying, for example, last week that, you know, the Trump administration has miscalculated everything and the Iranians are gaining a foothold. Trump actually called out Iranian state TV yesterday for fake news and also using AI-generated videos to tell a completely different narrative. Now, I think the taking out of this, Ali Larijani, head of Supreme National Security of Iran, was really important. He was one of the proponents. He was making a lot of the decisions, is my understanding, but he's also a proponent of this fake narrative. He was saying that it's clear they're running out of steam. That means us, the United States.
Right.
He was quoted saying Trump's problem is that he doesn't understand the Iranian nation is mature and determined. So this is what their narrative is. And by the way, he's gone, so he's not calling any shots. And the last thing I heard about the Supreme Leader that they elected is we got some statements and we've still only seen a cardboard cutout of this guy. So things are falling apart. And I think a lot of the military analysts do agree that we're winning. You see the strategic moves that not only we are making, but that the Israelis are making in that operation last night. And it's Tuesday of week 3. Trump asked us to give them 4 to 5 weeks. He has said that we are ahead of schedule, which seems to be the case because they are sputtering out of ammunition. I imagine it's the rest of that ammunition that it will take to decapitate them, as you're suggesting, in the next 2 weeks or so.
You know, we should point out that Iran is an ancient culture and an ancient, civilization and a country. Persia goes back centuries.
Yeah.
And you know, on the forefront of literature. I mean, this is a real country. But to say that these guys represent the Persian people, I mean,
They don't. You know, you know what my mother says.
Yeah.
These people do not represent.
This is a fringe element of Islam that, you know, is almost apocalyptic if you really follow their teaching. I mean, they believe that, you know, if they don't win, you know, the end of the world could come, and so be it. So we're talking, and most Iranians are extremely educated. I mean, this is such a weird country in that you have a very powerful clique of fanatics running. You know, so let's say 20% running 80% of people that just want to, you know, that are smart and just want to live their lives, and you know, they love their country, but they don't love what they're doing to the country.
But I want to point out that the working men and women are going to work and probably don't have time to turn on the TV. God bless you. And they see that diesel is $5.04 a gallon.
Yeah.
It's 78 cents away from the all-time high. That regular is $1.22 away from the all-time high. So they don't need the regime media to interpret what's going on. This hurts. And diesel feeds to all goods and services that are brought to market and brought to consumers by truck and rail. So you can't dismiss that.
I would say you're right, and I think I don't want to be Pollyannish. I mean, because
You're not. If there is anybody in this building who's not Pollyannish,
but about the impact of this war. I mean, there is a real bear case scenario for the U.S. economy on this, and I was talking with some very sophisticated hedge fund guys about how to play it, and they were saying, listen, if this thing drags on and oil stays elevated for a while, you have that on top of AI disintermediating many jobs. I mean, people are talking about this sort of like dynamic going on. So I'm just saying that, as much as we're saying that the war's going great, which it is, and maybe it's a necessary thing, and we all just have to suck it up, right? But let's not discount an economic cost here. And I think there will be, because there's a lot of different things coming at once.
There's been some notes I've read that, gosh, it used to be 100, maybe now it's 150, where we talked about it goes from inflation to disinflationary, right, because of the demand shock. I think everyone's at home trying to figure out what is that level where these higher prices start to crowd out my other spending, and we start to see sort of disinflationary trends. I will say Trump said we're not ready to leave Iran yet, but we will leave in the very near future or so, trying to read through the tea leaves.
Well, we've got Marines headed there, so 2,500 sailors, so we're going in the opposite direction.
Let's talk about Amazon. Ooh, they're going in the right direction. 90,000 products are now going to be available, you guys, for 1 hour or 3 hour delivery.
Oh, thank goodness.
I know. As if like your Prime one day or overnight.
So my
delivery
balance of
wasn't
nature will
enough.
come immediately.
In
You
1
now
hour.
get
Charlie, maybe in 1 hour.
My Aqua di Gio cologne.
Let's hold off on that a little bit. Let's give that 24 hours.
What do you think of that,
Does it
David?
cost more?
No,
Okay.
it's just the logistic freight company that Amazon has become.
They,
It's wild.
they lie, though. They lie about how soon the stuff shows up. Just saying. They'll say it gets there in 3 hours and it gets there in 3 days.
You know what?
And I get angry because, again, if you need dog diapers, you need them yesterday.
What about baby diapers, Dagan? You gotta like give me some stuff.
You
over
don't
here, too.
train your baby. You're not doing that baby training where you're supposed to read on the baby's face, where the baby's telling you that she needs to use the bathroom. You're supposed to run and hang her over the
Can
toilet.
Fry do that?
Fry uses the toilet.
Does he really?
Okay.
I'll believe anything.
We're done. We're done with the
a good
A-block.
guy. By the way, you know what I love about this
We
panel?
want to hear from you. If you have a question for us, go on over to our X, our Instagram page, and leave a comment. We'll be answering your questions in our Friday Ask Us Anything segment. But first up, New York City spending money hand over fist to solve homelessness, but the problem only getting worse. You are not going to believe some of these numbers. It's next. Stay with us.